to the 25, breaks a couple of tackles, and look at him go! He could go all the way! Touchdown!
Winning is not something, it's an always. Winning is a habit.
What's up, sports fans? Welcome back to another free agency episode of Gut Check Podcast. We are here to recap and talk some of the big moves of free agency. With me, as always, good friend and co-host Seth Floyd Hansen. How you feeling today, man?
Good. It's almost a weekend. It's Friday Eve. Feeling good.
Yeah.
Feeling really good after. I mean, free agency is really slowed down now, obviously, because we're 10 days into it or whatever. About a week. This free agency has gone better than I ever could have expected, as far from like a 49ers perspective from a fan. So I'm feeling good. I'm really excited. Just ready for that draft to get here now. So
yeah, definitely some big moves already. Some teams re-signing people, the trades beforehand, big free agent pickups. We'll talk about all of that. What we thought was good, what was bad, and teams to look out for post free agency. I'm sure those stuffed animals behind you came in handy during some of this process. So
some of those scary nights, bro. Keep me safe. Yeah.
So you already alluded to liking what the 49ers did. Let's talk about that. What was the biggest thing that they did that you liked?
Well, first off, like all year as a 49er fan, all I'd heard was like, holy crap, we have a ton of free agents and no cap space. Okay. So it was like, it felt like going into this off season I had to be prepared for guys to walk, sign other places. We were going to have a really young team because we were going to have to stockpile draft picks to replenish kind of what we lost because we just had money tied up elsewhere after the George Kittle contract, the Jimmy Garoppolo contract. You have to figure out a way to pay Fred Warner next season. So there was just a lot of this. All I know is we re-signed all of the guys that were very big impact players, okay? And we still somehow have cap space left over. Just clearly I don't understand how the cap works, but the guys over there understand how to restructure contracts. Now some of it's going to get pushed back and it doesn't completely ever go away, right? You just decide you're going to deal with it another day. But the biggest signing has to be Trent Williams, which he was sounds like he was a dinner away from being in Kansas City. He literally, I read the article, he literally walking into the restaurant called Kyle Shanahan. He had promised Kyle Shanahan that if he went to another team, he would call him first and that he would be the first one to know, to give him just like, because they're so tight. He literally, before free agency started, by the way, Trent Williams was in Cabo with Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's dad, hanging out because Mike Shanahan drafted him in Washington. That's how close he is to the Shanahan family. So he promised Kyle, like, if I go to another team, I'll call you and I'll let you know directly. You don't have to find out through the media or whatever. And so he had called him right as he was walking into dinner and said, he didn't say he was going to another team. He just said, look, man, I'm getting ready to make a decision and it's there. If nothing changes, like I'm about to make my decision after I eat dinner and stuff. And so he literally got done eating dinner and got a FaceTime back from Kyle Shanahan saying, hey, we got this thing done. Like we figured it out. And he got called by his agent, and then Kyle called him and said, we got it done because I wasn't going to let you walk. And from how it sounds, from the stories, it sounds like Kyle Shanahan went into the office and was like, you do whatever the freaking heck it takes. I probably did that. Whatever it takes. Probably a little bit. Whatever it takes to get him to stay. And so that's huge to me. People want to.
If you look at his contract too, Williams was a little petty with it, right? So he's getting average per year $23 million and $10,000.
Yeah.
Just $10,000 more than the highest tackle. David Bakhtiari.
Bakhtiari, yeah.
Packers, so.
Super petty. And also, I'm actually, when you look at the contract breakdown, I'm a little surprised that he signed it. Like, if I'm being honest, because it's basically two contracts. It's broken down. It was a 6-year contract, 3 and 3. And they can, after 3 years, they can get out of that contract very, very easily. Now, my guess is Trent Williams signed it because if they don't want to get rid of get rid of him, he's going to get paid a lot of money. And I'm guessing he's just betting, dude, I'm going to play till I'm pushing 40. So in 3 years, in 3 years, he'll be 35. And he looks great. Like, he doesn't look like he's slowed down. I mean, it's going to come eventually, but he's probably betting. He probably feels great, especially because he had a year off 2 years ago or a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't care. I'm a very short-sighted fan, and it feels like we're holding on to some kind of window of success, whatever that looks like. I don't know, but I just feel like I'm never going to regret, like the old Jerry Jones saying, like, I never regretted paying a premium for a premium. And mm-hmm. I would definitely say Trent Williams is a premium, so yeah. So very excited about that. But the fact that besides just Trent Williams, they were able to bring Kyle Juszczyk back, their fullback, which everyone thought he was going to be gone. They were able to bring
a lot of money for a fullback, but
a lot of money for a fullback. But they got it to work, and he does so much. The thing is though, like for Shanahan's offense, it like relies on a fullback, and this guy lines up at wide receiver at times. He catches the ball, like he just does things other fullbacks don't do. You got both your starting corners back with Jason. Well, I'll say this: Jason Verrett, starting cornerback, mm-hmm. and then Emmanuel Mosley, who can be a starting cornerback. He wasn't as good as Richard Sherman in 2019, but he has started games for the 49ers before. That was a big one. And then getting K'Wan Williams back was huge, who was the nickel corner, the slot corner. And then lastly, the biggest one is they re-signed DJ Jones, who just is a nose tackle and just providing more depth on that line. These are all the guys I thought were going to be gone. I thought you were going to be able to sign Trent Williams and then like one other guy, and then you were going to have to go bargain hunting, and somehow they made it work to get all these dudes back. So needless to say, it's been a great free agency period just because they were able to retain a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, the Trent Williams and the Kyle Juszczyk signings made the most sense for Kyle Shanahan. I mean, that is like outside of Kittle with his tight end, and then Jimmy G, who maybe isn't the best quarterback, but is definitely one of the best for his system and knows how to play in Shanahan's system. Those two guys, and then strong offensive linemen and a strong fullback, like you said, like make that team run, because I mean they're handing the ball to relative like nobodies, right? Like those players are making a name in Shanahan's system, and it's all because of the pieces he's putting around that. So all of those people are incredibly important.
Yeah. And the last thing that the one I always forget, because it happened right as the Trent Williams signing happened, was the signing of Alex Mack, who's the center. So
that was a big one.
Huge. And he's old. You don't expect long-term, but that's why you think also like the Niners view themselves in a window too. He's 35. But he played for Shanahan in Cleveland, played for Shanahan in Atlanta. And then when you talk to Trent Williams said, when you look at the times Kyle Shanahan has had success and went to the Super Bowl or made the playoffs, it's because you had really stability center play. And he said the whole offense runs based off of a capable center. Well, the Niners had a capable center. They should have a durable center in Weston Richburg. So he's going to retire because of his injuries, and now you have Alex Mack, who has just been a workhorse. He's not going to be an all-pro. He most likely not going to be a Pro Bowler, but he's going to provide stability. He knows for a center, it's so much like mentally. You got to be able to be the leader of that offensive line. So I can take an older guy at center. I don't want an super old guy at left tackle, but at center I can handle an older guy to direct the offense and know what's going on there along the line. So it just feels too good to be true, and like maybe it's better than I think. Maybe I think these guys are better than I think, but I'd rather have these guys back who have familiarity with the system than having to bargain hunt from other teams' rejects or drafting rookies. And like if you are relying on a handful of rookies, 5 or 6, to like have to be immediate impact starters, like it's just not a recipe for success. So it feels like we stabilize kind of some of the roster issues as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, it really shows year in and year out in the stats that the teams that have the highest rookie snap counts have the lower winning percentages. Yep. It's just tough that first year to rely on a lot of players. And then the same goes for, spending a lot of money in free agency to bring in some big name player who's sort of tapering off on their career, or trying to make a jump to somewhere else, it doesn't always pay off. So I think it is better to have those homegrown players. I know Williams was a trade. Mack has kind of been in a trade or a free agency pickup, but it could work out. Mm-hmm. And to the point about Mack, he was the center for the Seahawks, and then I believe he went to the Saints, right, in that Jimmy Graham trade, and the Seahawks offensive line has never been the same since then. So he's a solid pickup for sure. Yeah. The Jason Verrett signing you mentioned, that was one that I would have liked the Cowboys to try to go out on a limb for. So for the 49ers to get him, I'm sure they got him for a bargain. And if he stays healthy, I mean, he's a solid cornerback one for sure.
Yeah, and he did. I mean, that's the thing. It's just weird, man. Most guys who struggle with injuries, like that, it's kind of like derails their career. And somehow Verrett he's battled back. Even in 2019, he was on the team, but he got hurt, and like they put him on IR, and they brought him back for last year. And I know the team struggled, but he was like a bright spot. He played in just about every game, and was shut down in a lot of cases as a shutdown corner against guys. So if he can stay healthy, man, like it's fantastic. You know what I mean? It's gonna be good. A lot of these guys, you're right, came on 1-year deals. Mosley, K'Wan Williams, and Verrett, all on one-year deals. The hope is that they'll be able to, and part of that is because the cap went down this year. This has just been a weird free agency for contracts, but we'll see how it goes. But man, super excited that he's back.
So then I'll pose these two questions for you.
Okay.
What now do you think the Niners need to do in free agency, if anything? Is there a missing piece out there that you'd like them to go get? And then where do you think they're going to go draft-wise? We don't need to necessarily get into too many specifics because we'll save that for our episode. But has this changed their mindset going into the draft, do you think?
Well, I don't see any real holes. There's always going to be like some depth pieces. You're always going to want to just kind of build depth. But they did a good job of ensuring the depth. If they want to sign another pass rusher, so they signed I can't remember his first name, but Ebukum from the Rams, who was very productive in his rush snaps. He's a young guy. He's just like a really good athletic specimen. Not like a top free agent guy, but he's a guy that you can throw in on third downs that I'm excited about. If you signed another guy like that, like I think I'm just so in love with the 2019 49er team that was just built on the pass rush and the defensive line. Like I can't trust D Ford to be healthy, so the more the pass rushers you have that you can just throw in there that might give you some production, like I would like to see that. If they wanted to take a swing on a guy, this isn't their MO, they won't do this, but if they wanted to take a swing at a receiver like Antonio Brown, like I would love something like that. There's not really I was really hoping they would be in on Juju, because I think Juju in the slot would have been a good fit. But they're most likely gonna just bring in a rookie, would be my guess, because it's cheap and they're 2 for 2 on their last 2 drafts with receivers with Debo and Ayuk. So my guess is they're gonna just take a swing on somebody. So that's kind of where I'm at. So for the draft, this is kind of tied. They need to figure out their backup quarterback situation. They might need to figure out their starting quarterback situation. No one really knows what they're thinking. There was rumors of them being in on Flacco and some of these others. There's actually there's a rumor that they're in on Gardner Minshew, which Gardner Minshew as a backup I would love, because I think given how dysfunctional that franchise was last year, in 9 games he threw 6. I think I looked it up earlier. It was like 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Like that's pretty good for a team that's not very good. And so I would love a cheap trade where I get Minshew for a 5th rounder and plug him in as a backup. Like that would be awesome. Here's what I think is going to happen in the draft, or what did you ask me? What am I looking forward to in the draft?
How do you think these free agency moves have altered their plan? Yeah. So
what it has done is they're just a lot more free in the draft, because they've addressed some of these spots so they signed 3 cornerbacks, You've signed a couple defensive linemen. You've got your left tackle. You signed a center. Like, there's no spot where they feel like they have to press for a guy, even if he's not the best player on the board. I just think now in the first round especially, they can go at number 12 or wherever, they can go best player available, which could be anything. I would imagine – I think I haven't shut the door that they're going to try and be aggressive for a quarterback, but I imagine if it's not a quarterback, it's defense. It's going to be a defensive player, best guy that they can find, or best that's still there. Now, they'll still have to address, like, I still imagine they'll take a receiver. They're still going to take a cornerback, at least one somewhere in the draft, probably two. They'll probably address the running back position with a seventh rounder, an undrafted guy. That's been their MO, to just add another set of legs. But yeah, I just think free agency has opened the door for them to do kind of what they want. I think they can be really flexible now.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, it does look like they shored up positions that they needed to. And like you said, the 49ers love to go after defense. So
yeah,
I think that's where they need to go, especially, I mean, losing DeForest Buckner last year or moving on from him. Dee Ford hasn't been healthy. You need someone else besides Nick Bosa out there.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Have I been texting you my draft crushes, or have I been texting my dad that? Because I can't remember. you guys
you did tell me your draft crush of Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. Okay.
I was heading to the gym at like 5 a.m. I was like, what is this guy? Way too early to be blowing up my phone with this.
Yeah. So my other draft crush, if you want to know, I'll just throw this out there right now, is did you watch Micah Parsons today? Did you see the highlights of Micah Parsons' pro day?
No, I didn't see his yet.
Dude, oh my gosh. So I just had listened to one of the guys, Bruce Feldman, talk about Micah Parsons and talking about the Penn State coaching staff. And he's a linebacker for Penn State. He opted out this year, but the Penn State coaching staff, at least a couple of them, said Micah Parsons is the best athlete that they've ever coached. They said he's a linebacker who runs like a defensive back. Guess what? At his pro day today, he ran a 4.39 as a middle backer. Runs like a defensive back. He said they had legitimate conversations about having him go both ways at Penn State. At the very least, have him go in the red zone and be a jump ball receiver. Like, he's just a freak athlete. And so now, like, I know there's definitely not a need. It's not one of the ones you would address, but if you're going best player available and he's sitting there at 12, like, I don't even, and after today, I don't think he's making it to 12. You run a 4.39 as an inside backer, I don't think you're making it to 12. But I would hope that that's a dilemma that 49ers have to face. So we'll see. Maybe for for your boys though at 10, that's not a bad call at all.
He may not make it past 10. That's what I'll say for sure.
Yeah.
I'll look into that. But some other people have been balling out on their pro days too.
It's true.
That the Cowboys are going to be interested in.
True.
And hitting up the Cowboys, like, obviously their biggest free agent move was just signing Dak Prescott. We touched on that last episode. 4-year, $160 million. They had to do it. It's a premium. It's high price, but it's actually saving them about $15 million this year in cap space. So Jerry Jones said going into free agency, there's still some pie left, and they really haven't made a splash outside of that. In the offseason, obviously they fired Mike Nolan, their defensive coordinator, and they brought in Dan Quinn. So with that, we think the defense is going to shore up a little bit. Don't know exactly what Dan Quinn's model is going to be, but along with Quinn, they brought in Keanu Neil on a 1-year, $5 million deal. He was a safety with the Falcons, been to Pro Bowls, but injury plagued as well, including last year. When he's healthy, he is top 5, top 7 safety in the league, but that's a legitimate concern. Is he going to stay healthy? It's an Achilles and an ACL that he's coming back from, so never easy to come back from that.
Sure.
Outside of that, the Cowboys have really just been kind of shoring up, similar to the 49ers, just shoring up what they had. They re-signed Cedric Wilson, who's a solid wide receiver, made some big plays. Made some big plays against the Seahawks, Boise State guy. And honestly, the Cowboys just love anybody from Boise State.
Well, and it's paid off for them too, though. They haven't been disappointed.
That's Tank Lawrence, LVE, Cedric Wilson are all Boise State players, just off the top of my head. And then Kellen Moore, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, a lot of ties there. They loved him. They let one of their corners go, Chidobe Awuzie, but they kept Jordan Lewis, who was actually getting some good reps. So looks like him and Diggs are going to be their two starters at cornerback. Keanu Neil playing safety. Even talks about him playing like a weak side linebacker position, which is going to be interesting. And then they just got more depth across the defensive line, which they obviously needed. Moving forward, I don't know that there's going to be another big signing for them for free agency. I don't see needs out there. Their offense is solid. They got their swing tackle already. They picked up some tackles from the Bills and another free agent. I can't remember from where. So they got a little depth there, but nobody who's going to get some significant playing time if everybody's healthy. The interesting thing with Neil is I like him if he's healthy, but there is that talk. Is he going to play in the box? Is he going to be a cover guy? So if they move him down to the box, they could still go out and get another safety, another defensive back to try to play more coverage, whether that's in the draft or free agency. If they want to go free agency, Malik Hooker is still out there. That's another guy.
I'm a little surprised he's still out there.
Yeah, so it's another guy with some injury concerns. But if he's healthy, solid player for sure. Definitely would shore up that defense. Cowboys like to go after safeties in free agency other than the draft. It hasn't been one of their draft priorities. And I think Neil is a better player than Clinton Dix was when they tried to bring him over and then cut him. George Iloka hasn't panned out. I think Neil, when healthy, is better than all those guys. So I like the move. I think it makes sense. It's what they had to go after and what they had to do in free agency this year.
Yeah. I think it's good. I wonder how. I think we've talked about this a little bit. I was expecting the Cowboys to be a little more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. I want to know, for you, my question for you is how concerned you are about that. They've signed Keanu Neil. They have Dan Quinn. Do you have like, obviously the offseason is still really young, but do you feel any better about the defensive side of the ball as of right now what the Cowboys have done, or are you starting to sweat a little bit because you feel like they haven't done enough at this point?
No, I'm not sweating because I think the Dan Quinn signing was actually the best signing that they did.
Okay.
Jury's out on what he's going to be able to do, but he's going to be better than Mike Nolan.
Sure.
Was extremely solid in Seattle when he was a defensive coordinator. And a lot of those pieces in Seattle weren't top draft picks either.
Yeah.
Right. So wasn't Sherman like a 6th round draft pick or something like that? So it's not like
late.
He's always had success with top athletes. I think he creates a good system where he gets players to work and he finds the talent and puts them in positions to be successful. So I don't know that they need to go out and make another big pick for me to feel better. I would have liked getting Jason Verrett, but again, the 49ers snatched him up. And I think that's kind of what we saw was more teams were just re-signing their own players before letting them hit free agency, partly because the cap is lower. I think players were probably getting told by their agents, hey, if you go out there, you're not really going to get much better of a deal than what the team's going to offer you, because some teams just don't want to fork over a big amount of cash.
Yeah.
So the market just wasn't there. So I like having Dan Quinn there and what he has now. And I think if anything, this is just going to show that they need to address the defense in the draft and need to do it pretty early.
Because I'm a lot more like I'm not as harsh on the Cowboys, I don't think, as like some people, especially living here. Like, dude, the Cowboys, you live in here. These people are not fans. I think they're fans of the Cowboys, but they're pissed. And I'm not because like the way I see it is the offense was really good last year when Dak was healthy, putting up really good numbers. It was just the defense was historically bad. And so you bring in Dan Quinn, who has proven he's a good leader. You had some good Falcons team. He took a Falcons team as the head coach to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And they had some other good seasons too. I know it tailed off. Obviously, that's why he's not the coach anymore. But he's going to bring some stability there. And I think that, and people want to hammer Coach McCarthy, but I think, and the jury's out. Like he could just not be the right guy. I don't know. But I just think Mike Nolan was the beginning and the ends of all your problems as far as defensively, because Mike Nolan has never proven he's like a good leader. Like he was terrible with the 49ers. You know what I mean? He's bounced around the league as different. I don't know how much defensive coordinator. I know he's been a defensive coordinator at other places. But anytime he's like put in a leadership role, like he just doesn't get the job done. And so at least with Dan Quinn, he's had success as a coordinator. He's had success as a head coach. Now he's going to be the Cowboys defense coordinator. Like you got to feel good about that to some degree. So I don't know what your guys' ceiling is, but I know that your floor is much higher than what it was last year with Nolan as your defense coordinator.
Yeah, I think that's exactly true. And the thing is, if Dak is healthy and that offense is playing like they're playing, they're not going to need to score 40 points to win the game, because that defense is going to be better. That defense, it may not be the 2000 Ravens. That's fine, right? But if they're giving up, closer to 20 points a game versus 35, you can win more games. And the NFC East, which we'll probably talk more about with some of the teams and the free agency moves there. But you don't have to be 12-4 to win that division. It's not looking like, as we say every year. So it's just who's ever going to be healthy, have consistency on both sides of the ball. And I think Dan Quinn is going to bring that. And then, of course, whoever they draft moving forward this year.
Yeah, 100%. I think that they're in a better spot than what people want to give them credit for. I just do. For the Cowboys, I fully expect them. They need to. The Cowboys to me are not someone who needs to be drafting. I'll say it like this: they don't need to be drafting in the first round best player available. They need to be drafting best defensive player available. You know what I mean? And I'm curious. I've never worked in a front office or in a scout room, personnel room, but I'm curious if they divide the board like that, or if it true is a best player no matter what. Because it feels like you have to narrow it down a little bit, right? Like, I just think the most successful teams place a premium on defense, because defense is about dudes. You can't scheme guys. You can scheme a little bit on defense, but you need guys that can run and are big and don't get pushed around and can make tackles. Whereas on offense, I can take guys and scheme them into the right place. So it feels like for me, if I'm the Cowboys, that would be like my if I was running the Cowboys, I'd be like, you guys, let's identify who the best 50 defensive players in the draft are, best 100 defensive players, and let's see how many of them we can get, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance, obviously, to how these draft rooms are run and figured out. I don't want the Cowboys. If I'm running the Cowboys, I'm not going to tell them, let's just focus on defense, right? Because I don't want that to be skewed to think I'm only looking at defense. So I've rated this guy as the best player I've seen. And so he's like a 99. But I haven't looked at all these other offensive players. And if I was comparing the skill set, maybe it would be a little skewed, right? So I'd still just say, here, give me the 50 best players, right? Let me just look at those. And then I'll say the best offensive player I have is graded at a 90. The best defensive player I have graded is at an 89. Yeah. Well, that's close. I know I need to go defense, so maybe I'll pick an 89, even though that 90 is available. Yeah. That's kind of how I would look at it. But maybe if I say the best guy I've graded that's available on defense is an 82, and then you got somebody on offense that's like a 95. I don't know if there's ever that sort of disparity.
Yeah, that's
when
a good
you're
point.
Looking that close and in the top 10. But then that's when I may go that 95. But I think in this draft, you're probably not going to see that. I don't think they're going to go for like a Devonta Smith if he's available, or Jalen Waddle. I really can't see them doing that, even if one of those guys is graded so much higher. What I could see, though, is they go Slaughter out of Northwestern, who's going to get a high grade, or Penei Sewell, if for some reason he drops to 10 and is available. He could be highly rated, more so than like a Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley, Micah Parsons, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think they could look at offensive line. if there is such a disparity, but I certainly like them to go defensive back, defensive player with that number 10 pick.
Well, they can't. The Cowboys cannot. If they're going to go offense, the only thing they could do is offensive line. If you're using a top 10 pick for the problems they have, which is not a quarterback, it's not your receivers.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Zeke, but no one is spending another top 10 pick on a running back. You also have Tony Pollard, who I think who should take more carries this year. At least it should be 50-50 between those two. But anyway, so that's a great point. I like those points you make.
I do love what they have at tight end now, actually, but Kyle Pitts would be an intriguing pick. But again, that's like making the rich richer.
Sure. That's the thing with Kyle Pitts is he creates mismatches. If you have a freak tight end with he's just a good athlete, but he can now to me, we talk about I don't know how good of a blocker Kyle Pitts is. Okay. Now Kyle Pitts lining up at tight end, if he's only going to catch the ball, then that's not worth it to me. But if he can just be an average blocking tight end, but an elite tight end or pass catching tight end, then that would be worth it because you create different mismatches that you have to account for. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, he's just playing a really tight slot receiver who's never going to block, and that's my only thing. But I wouldn't fault the Cowboys because you know how I feel about Kyle Pitts. Like I'm really excited about Kyle Pitts, so it would be good. Yeah,
definitely. So those are our takes on our teams. Obviously, neither team really made the biggest splash or headline outside of the Dak Prescott thing, just because everyone was ready for that to be wrapped up.
Yeah.
Some other teams, on the other hand, have been making splashes. We talked first, Arizona Cardinals, big signing with J.J. Watt. They continued that with signing A.J. Green and Malcolm Butler just now. But I think the team that's just caused the most headlines and the most news is got to be the Patriots.
Yeah, in a non-Belichick fashion is why they're spending so much money on some receivers, on tight ends especially. Okay, you sign in Jonnu Smith and Henry Clay and
Hunter Henry.
Dude, I'm in total history mode. Do we know who Henry Clay is? The great compromiser. I literally have been talking about Henry Clay all day today. So that's his nickname for those of you history buffs out there. All right. Okay, Hunter Henry. Okay. Anyway, that's a good. I mean, you want to fix some of your quarterback problems, get him some security blankets with the tight end. They also signed Kendrick Bourne, who not worth the money he got. However, very good receiver who I don't know what it is. I don't know why some guys play different on different downs. Like there has to be because statistically defenses are playing differently on third down, but he shows up on third down. He has more third down receptions for a first down than anybody in 2019. I would bet every time the 49ers had a third down, I'd put money it was going to Kendrick Bourne because I guess guys were just focusing on Kittle and Debo. I don't know, but Kendrick Bourne was always open on third down, which is a huge moneymaker. And he's in the red zone. He was Jimmy Garoppolo's favorite target in the red zone. He just would find ways to get open. I don't know why he didn't play like that all the time, but it just was on those downs. So that's going to be a good pickup for Cam as well. They also they finessed the Raiders into giving Trent Brown back to them, who I'm not the biggest Trent Brown fan in the world. If you remember, he was a 49er. I think that he's a very good pass blocking tight end. Pass blocking tackle. Run blocking, I don't know what he graded out at, but what I remember him from the 49ers was very large human being that doesn't move super well. But at tackle, he's able to get back into a spot. He's got long reach. He's great at pass protecting. And so I think they're familiar with Trent Brown, and I think that that's going to help stabilize kind of some of their issues that they had. So it'd be interesting to see. Are you convinced? Are you convinced that Cam is their guy? Are they really going to just run it back with Cam, or are they going to make another move?
I think they need to make a move. I don't know that they're going to draft early for quarterback. Part of the fit, it sounds like Mac Jones seems like a good fit there, right? Like he's a cerebral, accurate, hardworking, senior in college, right? Or fifth year senior, right? Got his playing time. Like he fits that model that could work. Cam Newton can be a great quarterback if he's healthy. I don't know that he can push the ball down the field. But I think what you brought up, right, with Kendrick Bourne signing, he's not worth that money. I think that's kind of the head scratcher with the Patriots here. They went out and they spent a lot of money. Hunter Henry, I like that one. Jonnu Smith, like, to spend a lot of money on 2 tight ends. However that fits their model, that's great. But that's a lot of money on just one position. And then you go out and you get Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar.
That's what I was forgetting.
Right, when you had other wide receivers out there that are arguably better. Will Fuller was available. Kenny Golladay was available.
Juju.
Jones,
I love me some Juju.
You could have gone Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Any of those guys probably would have been better. And some of those got signed for cheaper. Will Fuller and Marvin Jones Jr. got signed for cheaper than what they were paying these wide receivers right now. So, I mean, I like the quote. He was from Pro Football Focus. He's like, the Patriots went on a spending spree and could have gone anywhere in the world. They went to Target. I love Target. Don't get me wrong. It's dependable, right? But if you have all that money, are you really spending it in the right way? And we'll see. And I don't know that any of those pickups are really going to just elevate Cam Newton's game so much more. Like, I think a Kenny Golladay could have stepped up Cam Newton's game. I think the rest of them are just gonna like meet what he can do, right? I don't know that they're gonna push Cam any farther. So I do like what they did on defense. I mean, they brought back Kyle Van Noy. I think they got Matthew Judon too. I like the defensive picks mostly because whoever shows up on defense in Bill Belichick's system is going to pan out. I don't know if I'm blanking on the offensive coordinators.
Josh
right
McDaniels.
McDaniels, right? I was gonna say Jeff Daniels. That's an actor. But anyway, Josh McDaniels, right? I think he's a very smart offensive coordinator and obviously very successful, but I don't know if he's going to be extremely successful with Cam Newton running that system, no matter what the other pieces are. Yeah. I think there's still limitations there. So they may try to run it back with Cam Newton for another year. But I can't see it going past a year.
They've just painted, like, it was so weird, dude. Like, it is weird because they started the season pretty good, much like it looked like it was working, and it looked like, oh, maybe they're going to push for playoffs. And then he comes back after being off for COVID, and then is like a different player. But it wasn't. It was like his decision making. Anyway, he plays terrible, especially that second half of the season, and then you give him more money than what you like. There wasn't going to be a market for Cam, was there? In free agency, like no one was going to give him. They were going to give him $1 million and be like, hey, you can come be our backup and maybe compete in camp a little bit, but if you really show us, but you're like, we're signing you to be a backup. So it just was weird that Bill was just going to spend that money on Cam. I don't understand why the Patriots won't just commit to a run game. Mm-hmm. When you don't have Tom Brady anymore, like, that's kind of how you fix your problems. If you don't have a good quarterback, you just start figuring out how to run the ball a little better. Maybe it's a McDaniels thing, like he just doesn't operate that way. But why wouldn't you just? I mean, I don't know enough about their roster, but I don't know why you wouldn't invest maybe in some interior linemen. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. I mean, not that there's any running backs on the market that I think you need to go get, but like it just feels like they're investing in the receiving game, and just knowing Josh McDaniels, it goes with that it feels like they're just going to go that route. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and they actually lost one of their guards, Thuney, right? He was a solid interior lineman. You have Sony Michel, who has been proven a very capable and good back if he stays healthy, right? So, yeah, I like that. And especially with Cam Newton, I mean, he's already a running quarterback. He can do that. He's not going to throw the ball, or he's not going to be successful throwing the ball 50 times a game, 60 times a game, and stretching it down the field, which sometimes you watch him throw the ball, it just looks painful.
It's weird. He like throws up and then the ball goes down. Like, he does that kind of thing all the time, which I don't understand how that's even possible.
Yeah. Neither of us are physics teachers, but pointing up, going down, it doesn't add up.
You know who was really good at doing that as like a joke? This is so off topic. Freaking, do you remember Bobby Zalude? our world famous kicker, he would do that to me all the time. He'd be like, "Hey Seth, at practice," and he would heave like up, and then he would do this wrist thing, and he would like hit me in the gut with the ball. Anyway, so every time I watch Cam Newton throw, I'm like, "Is that Bobby out there? Because this looks weird." Bobby's like 5'5" though, so that's not Bobby. It's not.
Bobby's been his quarterback coach, I guess. Cam Newton plays from California a lot. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
So Patriots made some moves, a lot of money spent. Some of the moves we agree with, some we're a little unsure, especially with this Cam Newton signing and running it back with him. But I think that the team that probably caused at least the biggest head-scratching move, and just this organization in general, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Goodness.
Not too sure what they're doing, signing Kenyon Drake for a 2-year, $11-something million contract when you already have Josh Jacobs, who could be an all-pro, definitely a Pro Bowler, and they lost some pieces on the offensive line, like we already talked about.
Yeah, it's just mismanagement. Clearly,
yeah.
You had what a lot of people thought was the best center in the game. You traded away your guard. Like I don't. Why are you paying? It's bad enough to pay a premium for a running back because. I don't know what the official numbers are, but if a running back's taking up more than who knows, dude, I don't know what his numbers are, but he should be one of the lowest paid or one of the lowest cap hits on your team as far as starters go across the board. Okay, maybe not. He's not a fringe guy, but he shouldn't be making anyway. That's too much for Kenyon Drake, who is a fine running back. He's a serviceable running back, but especially when you already have a running back, as you mentioned, like. Do they have any idea what they're doing? Do they know how to run an NFL franchise? It's so weird because so many people, myself included, I loved the John Gruden hiring. I wasn't as sold on Mike Mayock, I guess, but you expect Mayock to know how to put things together. Like he's lived in this draft world. He's been a personnel guy. Like he's lived it. He's been in it. It's not like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, so it just feels like they can't both be on the same page, can they? Or are they both on the same page with just making terrible decisions? Because it feels like Gruden, like the way I see it is Mayock knows a serviceable way to build a roster. And Gruden is just such an eccentric personality that he's just going to make impulsive decisions. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I see, but I don't know if that is true. I've heard that Gruden has final say, but even if you have final say, you like are going to be on the same page, or unless he's just hard-headed and isn't going to take any type of advice from anybody.
Yeah. So my theory in talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, you talked about them, John Gruden, Mike Mayock, big name people, been on TV a lot, both came from an analyst position. Mayock was like the draft guy on NFL Network. Gruden had his quarterback camp, and then he was Monday Night Football, of course. Big personalities. Been around football a lot in the process. But this is where they go wrong, right? They fall in love with the names and they get behind the hype for these players. They went out and got Nelson Aguilar, who was a big name, USC wide receiver that people liked in the draft, wasn't playing well in the pros, but they paid for him anyway to get him over to the Raiders. Marcus Mariota, they paid him a lot of money to be a backup quarterback. Because he was a big name, everybody had hype, and they loved him, right? Kenyon Drake coming out of Alabama, Mayock loves those guys. I think they're not out of analyst mode yet, and I think, which is no excuse because they've been there for. You
better get out of it, dude. Yeah.
But also, where's the pressure to? Because Gruden's there for 10 years. I don't know what Mayock's contract is, but they're probably tied to the hip as long as there's no infighting between the two of them. They could probably write out this 10-year contract, no issue. But Davis is paying a lot of money for no production whatsoever. So I think they seemed like they wanted a mindset of power football, run the football, have a good offensive line and a good running back. Well, you had that, and now you've lost the O-line. And then instead of reinvesting that money in the offense or in the defense, if you wanted to do that too, you just get another running back. You can't. I don't know. It is a lot of money for a backup running back when you lost a lot of pieces that would have directly supported that running back.
So the other thing that's hurt them is they have not really been hitting on draft picks, and that might be unfair, but I have not like I don't know. I don't study their draft. I couldn't tell you every one of their draft picks. Maybe they found some value that I'm not aware of, but I know they took Cleveland Farrell in the top 5. Was he number 3 or was he 4 overall pick?
I want to say 4. 4 sounds right.
I legit that year don't think I even had Cleveland Farrell in my first round mock. And I'm not an analyst, but I know you don't have to be an analyst to find some combination of the first 5 picks. You really don't.
Yeah.
They took Cleveland Farrell at 5. You had a top 5 pick, and you got Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah.
You also took Henry Ruggs last year, who, look, that one's like a little more forgivable, but he hasn't played. He didn't play great. I don't think anyone is super excited about that pick as of right now. Everyone, the positive spin for Henry Ruggs right now is he made a couple plays and the jury's still out. You hope he takes another step this year, right? Whereas when you look at Justin Jefferson, he's there. I would say Brandon Ayuk with terrible quarterback play looked really good last year.
CeeDee Lamb looked good.
CeeDee Lamb, you know what you get. You're like, great, we got a guy. Henry Ruggs, he could be a guy, but you don't want to say with your first round pick by the end of that year, I need to be able to say, I got a dude.
Yeah.
It's how I feel about Javon Kinlaw right now, who I'm hopeful for the 49ers, but he didn't play as well as I'd hoped he would have played for that pick. And so, like, it makes me nervous. They've had a few drafts this year, or since Mayock's been there, that they haven't cashed in on these premium picks. And so, you know, like I don't know. And then you trade away some of the guys you have, and then you're going to sign a running back who's really not even that good. Is Kenny Drake really that good? Probably not.
He's got some flashes. That's it.
So he can. I mean, are they just planning on running the ball 60 times a game, and they don't want to give Jacobs 60 carries a game? Like maybe and they want to split more carries. Like I don't know. I just think that. I mean, are they going to throw Kenyon Drake the ball? Is that what they want to do? Like I don't understand where he fits in, other than to maybe prolong Jacobs' career and have him take less carries. But that makes you a worse football team. So.
Yeah, I think it's just when you lose pieces that you needed on offensive line that were the driving force of that offense. Like you saw those pictures of the pocket that Derek Carr would throw at us sometimes, like as clean as could be. It was solid, right? Yeah. And then their power running game is driven off of that. Yeah. And then you lose those pieces and you don't address that. I mean, that's the head scratching piece. I won't be as harsh on them with some of their draft picks as you are. The Josh Jacobs pick was good.
Great pick. Yeah.
I even think getting Hunter Renfrow when they did, it was later, but he's a solid slot guy. There's safety from Bama that they got. Good starter. I'm forgetting his name now too. I could look it up, but there's some pieces.
Here's my thing though. In every draft, you need to, especially with that your first round pick, they all need to, in an ideal world, and the teams that are good, they hit on those guys that are high floor, high ceiling guys that just come in and produce. Like we don't question how good Josh Jacobs is, right? Like he's just good. Yeah. He's just a really good running back. Is he top 5? I don't know, but he's certainly a top 10 running back, and like he's a good starter. Yeah. And probably a Pro Bowler, right? Like could be an All-Pro one day. That's what you said. Like you need one or two of those guys in each draft to really sustain your success, and you're not getting that with Cleveland Farrell, especially a top 5 guy. I don't want to harp on that too much, but like, how do you make that call when you're an analyst guy? John Middlecoff is a guy I listen to a bunch. He's a Bay Area guy. I listen to him a ton. He was a scout for the Eagles for a while, and then he got into media. And one of his things he says, one of the philosophies that they would talk about with the Eagles, that is just, you can't do this, is you can't, when you have a strength on a team and a weakness on a team, you can't pull from your strength to fix a weakness. That makes your team worse. So it feels like the Raiders traded 2 of their linemen who were a strength for their team, and John Gruden likes to run the football, and Josh Jacobs is a strength for your team. You trade 2 of your offensive linemen to, I guess, address other areas of need because you're tight on cap space. I don't know. I think you're just better off paying those guys and try to draft some of these other skill. I promise you, I could find someone in the draft, not in the first 3 rounds, that can do whatever the heck you want Josh or Kenyon Drake to do. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I've already said this. I'm going to say it again. The 49ers are going to be a top 3 rushing team in the league this year. And the 2 guys that are going to lead their team in rushing, as long as they stay healthy, are undrafted free agents. So, like, why wouldn't you? I know you paid for Josh Jacobs. Cool. You had 3 first-round picks. Go, by all means, use it on a running back. Go draft some guy. Like, go. They are a dime a dozen. And I'm a former running back. We are not that special. If I can be successful at it, guess what? You want to know why I was successful? Because our offensive line averaged 315 pounds across the board, and we had Kenny Stills playing freaking wide receiver out wide out. So when you have 300-pound offensive linemen and you're only putting 5 in the box, guess what? I'm going to be successful. And I was. As a slow white guy, I was successful at running back.
Who's your fullback? Who came in to block for your as a fullback?
Weston Manor. Weston Manor was the fullback.
He was a blocking fullback.
He wasn't. That was a false name. Exactly. And you pay a fullback. You know what I mean? Like the athletic fast guys are a freaking dime a dozen. That's all that they are. So why? It just doesn't make any sense. I would legitimately, what I'm saying to you right now, I would say to their face. I'd be like, I love you guys. You guys have earned whatever you've done in your career to be where you're at. But holy crap, what are you thinking? Because this doesn't make any sense.
Definitely a head-scratching move. We'll see. Honestly, we'll see if this Gruden-Mayock pairing lasts for the whole 10 years. It's looking a little unshaky. They're not producing. I mean, Jack Del Rio had more wins and got him to the playoff for less money than what John Gruden is doing. So John Gruden has branded himself well. He's fun to watch on the sidelines and obviously brings some entertainment value, but you got to start winning games at some point. So
yeah,
we'll see if that turns out.
They're like, I know it doesn't make sense, but I like, even though I have teams I really dislike, they're one of those teams that I root for to be good because the league is more interesting when they're good. And the Raiders and the Cowboys are those 2 teams in my eyes that the league is just more fun to watch when they're good. And the Raiders, I'm rooting for them. I really like Derek Carr. How do you not like Darren Waller? How do you not like Josh Jacobs? Yeah. Like, you got some pieces that are good, but man, oh man, I hope they figure it out. Because guess what? The Chiefs aren't going anywhere. The Chargers, if they can get a solid, I don't know if coaching, whatever, they need just some sort of stability to finish games, but they have a quarterback who's not going anywhere. I mean, the Raiders better, I don't know, they better buck up because it's going to get wild. So
they definitely need to catch up. So we're going to wrap it there, folks. Getting a little fired up here talking about the Raiders. So before we start waking up everybody in the house, we'll call it here. Still a lot more we could talk about and that we will talk about this offseason coming up. So thanks for sticking with us this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.